Well, it is a bit of a wet and rainy day, but there is work to be done. We're back on the Royal Enfield Meteor, where today we start reversing all the damage done by the thieves and start making this bike better. Previously I showed that the entire lock set for the bike had been destroyed because it had been stolen, so the ignition barrel had been drilled out. The fuel cap had also been drilled out, and this side panel lock is completely missing. I do have a complete lock set. I'm going to do the easy one first. Well, I think it's easy, which is this side panel lock, which I've got a replacement for right here. A notch on the lock, so it can only go in one way. Retaining clip for the back. Alright, now I need the keys. Secure. Well, next is going to be the ignition replacement. I think the easiest way to attack this is to remove the headlight, so I have all the room in the world to try and figure this out. I think that should give me just enough room. Just in case, I'll take this out as well. I think the connector for this is tucked up behind this. I'll take off this trim piece here inside the headlight. Feed that out. Alright, it's a matter of unbolting the ignition now. Alright, ignition barrel removed. In. Alright, ignition working, great. Instrument cluster. Now in the last video I showed this one, had a broken lens, obviously full of water. The LCD didn't work. Once I had pulled it off, I could see that the connectors were very corroded, so obviously it filled right up with water. This gauge here doesn't have mile per hour readings like this one, but that's not important to us here in Australia. What I need to do is change this bracket over to the new gauge, fit it, plug it in, and see if we have a working cluster. Something to note, the part number here for the old cluster is different to the new one, so hopefully it will still work. I think maybe this is just a new revision, or it's something to do with the fact that this doesn't have miles per hour indicated on the gauge face. So here we are, gauge mounted. I expect it to be a bit unhappy because the fuel tank's not hooked up. There's display, gauge sweep, everything lights up. Yeah, fuel indicator's freaking out. Yeah, working cluster, excellent. Okay, what are we going to do about the rear fender? Well, as previously noted, the rear indicators are missing. There's no number plate frame. It's got overspray on it. They tried to paint over the taillight. I don't really know what the thieves were thinking. They were obviously really trying to hide this bike. Simplest solution that I think I can come up with is just to replace the fender entirely, because it ends up being cheaper than trying to source the missing parts. So I found this on eBay. Everything's on there. Number plate frame. I have tested it. All the lights work. So I think there's about 4 bolts holding this on. Get this off. Get this on. That's another thing we can check off the list. and the number plate light. Okay, another job crossed off the list. So another basic but necessary job that I've been waiting to do is an oil change, and now that I finally have the correct oil filter, I can get that done. And a difference about the Royal Enfield is the oil filter's right here behind this plate rather than underneath. These oil filters have a spring on them. I haven't really seen that before, but I guess it creates tension, pushes that filter against the housing so it can't bypass and leak. Well, it pays not to guess when refilling the oil. The owner's manual calls for 1.7 litres for refill and about 2.2 for dry fill. So because it's already had oil, I'm going to use this measuring jug, measure out 1.7 litres and pour it in. We should be right. Well, I was going to wait, but I can't. I'm going to refit the fuel tank now. Yep, seat 2. Well, I did get carried away by putting the tank and seat back on. I need to remove them again because I still need to adjust the valves. You also might notice the Royal Enfield logos are now on the tank, and I think it looks much better. Swing that out of the way. I get the valve cover off. I think there's 3 10 mils. Now get the spark plug out. It's not too bad. Next I've got to turn the engine over to top dead center. To do that, there's a little cover plate on the other side, which takes a 14mm hex key, and I don't have one, so guess I'm going to the hardware store.
1 hour later.
And the back, got a 14mm hex bit, so now I can remove that little plug to access the crankshaft to be able to turn it, set the engine to top dead center, so then I can check the valve clearances. Okay, there's a little seal that belongs in here. Make sure not to lose that. Set it back in the cap, put that aside. Right, so now I'm going to use a 17mm socket to turn the crankshaft anti-clockwise, and I'm going to rest this Torx bit driver in the cylinder so I can see when it stops rising to know that it's at top dead center. It stopped coming up, so I'll say that's right. So the intake should have 0.08 clearance and the exhaust should have 0.18, 0.08 feeler gauge here. I can't even get that in there. Okay, undo the locking nut. That's pinched in there. We need to open it up so there's light drag, like so. To double check. Yep, still got light drag. That's that one adjusted. All right, 0.18. Almost get it in there. It's a bit tight, so same thing. Feeler gauge in. Wind it down. I like to wind it down till it pinches and then back it off. Light drag about there. Just tighten that locking nut. Recheck we can get the gauge in. Yep, light drag. Now they're adjusted, can reassemble. Get the coil back in place. Also, there's a couple of earth wires here. You need to make sure they're also attached. Spark plug. Not forgetting to put on this crank bolt cover, making sure the O-ring is still in place and well seated in that cap. It only needs to be done up tight enough for that seal to work. This is aluminium. You don't want to over tighten it and make it crack. There we go, that's good. Back on with the tank. The super unfun part of getting these hoses back on. Make sure that rubber boot's back on. Positive engagement for the fuel line. Clip these lines in here so they're away from that lug. It's very useful. Line the tank up, give him a wiggle. Get this bolt lined up somewhat. Get this on. Somewhat back to where we were. Now we're getting somewhere. New, correct Royal Enfield rear seat. That lives on there. And the grab rails and bolts to hold it all on. Okay, little clip, back secure, front holes lined up. It's nice cast alloy, good and solid. Another job I've been waiting to do is adjust this chain tension because it's too loose. It should have about 25 mil or 1 inch of deflection and definitely moves way further than that. So, got to loosen the axle and move the rear wheel back. So cranking clockwise should pull the axle backwards. That's probably about right there. Okay, that's just about everything done that I can do because of all the rain we've had lately. There's been flooding up here, which means I've been cut off, can't get parts to arrive. I did end up getting the mirrors and get them fitted, but I still have an ABS light and an engine light on. So I'm waiting for a diagnostic cable so I can properly read those codes. There is a way you can read them with the bike by using the throttle and the engine light flashing to blink out a code for you to then decode to a list. So I already have the ABS wheel speed sensors on order because they don't cost that much. But for now, I am kind of stuck. So unfortunately, that'll be the end of this episode. There'll be another one where I hopefully fix those last couple of issues, get the bike registered, and then take it for a road test. So until then, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.